So, what are we talking about today? Today, we are talking about, those feelings of shame that we carry around with us from when we're children. And we don't even realize that we're still carrying those feelings with us. Hi, Monica. How are you? How was your holiday? It looked immense, actually. Looked like you had a brilliant time. Say hello if you're joining me, and I'm going to crack on. I'm still jet lagged, so I'm a little bit tired. So I don't really want to overrun today. I just want to kind of stick to the time limit. And you have to excuse my fringe, it's doing something really weird at the moment. No idea. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about, those times when we were a kid when something happened and we felt ashamed and we didn't even, notice that we were carrying that shame into our adult lives. And the problem with emotions like shame is that they're insidious. They kind of creep into everything and they can really affect your relationship with both money and partners, relationships, and not just romantic partners. It can affect your relationships with your children, with your siblings, even your parents. So I just want to talk about that tonight. And then, hi, Belinda. Thank you. Lovely to have you here. So I just want to talk about shame, really. It's something that I've been working through myself. Before I went to India, I was doing some work on it, and I was quite surprised at some of the things that were coming up for me that I thought I'd sort of let go of and weren't really a thing, but clearly they were still active within my physicality. So vibrationally for me, they weren't active, but they were active physically for me. So just to clarify on that, if you have been doing this work with your higher self for a little while now and you have awakened, in other words, you know your broadest truth, or you're in evolved you, or you have gone further along in your journey, energetically, you might have let go of those feelings. But physically, your cells may remember those experiences. So, for a long time, for example, when I used to try clothes on, I used to feel really hot and uncomfortable and really stressed about it. And Athalia showed me a memory, kind of bringing it up for me to share with you, of when I was about 5 or 6, and I wanted to have some dungarees. And my mum said to me, "Oh no, those won't suit you. They'll make you look fat or something along those lines." You got to remember this is the 70s, so a lot of the stuff we know not to say to children today, we didn't know to say back then. And I remember sort of being, I think I was quite affronted by it, although I didn't really understand that's how I felt. But I also remember feeling slightly ashamed and embarrassed by the comment. And so for a long time, when I tried wearing clothes or went to shops to try clothes on, it would trigger that kind of feelings in me again. So with the help of your higher self, you can obviously clear those memories. And then you must make sure that you've cleared them physically as well. So your higher self can help you locate those memories where they're sitting within your physical body. For some of you, it'll be in your throat, others will be heart. Some of you might have gained weight in specific places, like arms and legs. So it's good for you to kind of understand that you can do that. So let's just crack on. And I want you to share, if you feel comfortable, I'd like you to share with me any instances of shame or embarrassment or judgment that you felt that is coming up as I talk, right? Because those are the things that are ready for you to clear and shift. And in the clearing and shifting of those, we are hopefully going to help create some momentum and some change in your relationships and your relationship with money and currency flow. Okay. So I made some notes. I'm just going to read them because that's what the guidance was. Do you remember a time where you asked for something and then were scolded by a parent or another relative for being too demanding or too greedy or for behaving like a spoilt child? And this would have been accompanied by comments like money doesn't grow on trees, or who do you think you are? Do you think you're special or something? Do you remember when someone made you feel like you wanted too much in a relationship and that you were too needy? Or were you told by someone that you were too much and that you needed to tone down? Or perhaps you grew up with people who were not great role models of adults. For example, making disparaging comments about men or women, all men are lazy, all women are whores, for example. As a child, and it's quite that last one actually, all women are whores. I'm quite surprised that that's come out, but that is definitely coming through from the Higher Self Collective. Okay. Um, as a child, you don't have context. You really only have the lived in experience you have then and what you are seeing around you within your family, at school, within your community as well, right? So when someone accuses you of being greedy, or if you hear someone being disparaging about someone else, it can make you feel ashamed or small. It can make you question your own judgment. And because you feel regret or shame because of your poor judgment, it can then make you question future judgments as you grow older. Um, right, okay, so there we go. That's a really interesting one here Monica's given us. One of them is when I was 13, my teacher said, I'm not a good painter. Until today, I feel like I'm not good enough. And after that, I stopped painting until last November. So that's had quite an impact on you, Monica, right? And so there are two things here for you to think about. Actually, it neatly brings me on to uh, the resolution, okay, and how we get over this. When you have adults who are supposed to be sort of authority figures in your life, parents, teachers, etc., and they criticize you in that way, what it can do is it can take away your power because, like I said, we don't have context. We don't know any better. The only experience we have is our own lived in experience. We don't have the skills to judge things on a wider scale. And so your teacher, Monica, might have been really harsh to everybody in the class, not just you, or they might have bullied you and picked on you, right? But the impact of that was it took away something from you. In other words, it disempowered you. It took away something that you really enjoyed doing. And because they're an adult, an authority figure in your life, you believe them. So, my question to you is what made you pick up your painting brushes again? And I've seen your artwork and I really like it. Now, does that mean you are the next Van Gogh or Monet? Perhaps not, but that's not what you're aiming for. And so that's the other thing to bear in mind is when an adult or an authority figure comes in like that and criticizes you and really, really makes you feel small and talentless like that. You have to look at it when you are looking back with Ashka's help. Ashka is Monica's high self. When you look back on this, Ashka's going to show you how fearful and how disconnected your art teacher was. Because if your art teacher was connected to their higher self and was loving and was kind, which happens when you connect to your higher self, what would have happened is your teacher might have been more encouraging. They may not have been, wow, you're an amazing painter, but they may have begun to say to you, you need to work on this aspect. So, for example, I do an art class. I am not the best by any means, but what I do have is a talent for colour. So I know that pretty much anything I sketch, as soon as I bring colour into it, I can correct it, right? Now, someone said to me, oh, you're a really amazing painter. And that was a lovely compliment from them. But actually, I don't think I am because I've seen the work of other people in my class and I've seen, I've got work to do to improve. But what I have here is context, okay? So I want you, Monica, to go to I mean, the effect of that teacher, you didn't paint for all those years and you wanted painting to be your job. Like, that is such a massive impact, right? And what happened was when that teacher, Ashka's saying, is when that teacher said to you that you're not good enough, she made you feel ashamed for wanting to have painting as your job. And what Ashka's saying is that that feeling of not being good enough is actually being driven still by that feeling of shame. So what you're going to do is you're going to speak to Ashka after this live, and you are going to say to her, right, what is the truth here that I need to know so that I can let go of that? Yes, you can, Louise. So that I can let go of that shame that I'm feeling, that nagging feeling that I'm never going to be good enough, that no one's going to really love my art. And the reason you want to let go of this, Monica, and this is really important, when you love your own art and you own it, the energy you pour into it will translate energetically to any customers. And they'll be like, wow, I really love this. And they may not be able to articulate why they love your art, but they'll be just like, there's something about this. I really love that. You'll hear that phrase a lot. There's something about this. It's really sweet. It's really lovely. And so, what I want you to do is to go back with Ashka and ask for a series of truths that are going to help you let go of that feeling of I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm a bit ashamed that I was so ambitious for myself, which you should never ever be ashamed of. And those three things are driving that thing of other people won't like my art. Well, I've seen your art. I think it's lovely, and I've told you that before. So that is a really, really good example. I'm going to talk about relationships now because many of you in the group are hoping to meet partners and just improve your relationships in general, whether it be with your children, your spouses, new partners, parents. It doesn't really matter. Thank you, Louise. You want to improve those relationships. So with relationships, again, it comes back to who were our models as children, what was their interaction like with them, and how did they make us feel? So I'm going to give you an example. My dad grew up in India. Neither of my grandparents were particularly touchy-feely people. My dad did not remember ever sitting on his mum's lap and getting a cuddle or anything like that. It's not that she didn't care, she just wasn't physically demonstrative. And when my dad was 5, he went off to boarding school for a number of years because my grandparents were worried that he would get spoilt as the only boy amongst 4 children. And then when he was about 10, I think, he was brought back home and sent to a more local school where he didn't fare very well initially because it was an English medium school and his boarding school only spoke Bengali. So he came back to Calcutta and didn't speak any English. And he got beaten up by the teachers. This is the 50s, right? The beginning of the 50s, where teachers could be quite horrible to their students, physically abusive. And my dad experienced a lot of that. And so my dad grew up in a world where the only kind of touch he was getting was actually quite physically abusive, where it was unkind. It wasn't nice. And so for my dad, you know, when it came to physicality, my dad learnt that sometimes physical touch is not safe. So when I was born and my younger sister were born, and obviously got together with my mum, I imagine my dad had to do a little bit of work around that, around the safety of touch. And the only people I ever saw him hug were us, right? He just did not want to touch anyone else because for him, physical touch, there was a connection to neglect, there was a connection to abuse, and there was a connection to there's no love in this, right? Some of you will have experienced relationships like that. Some of you will have experienced relationships where addiction has come into play, leading to emotional neglect. And so your main relationships are unstable, right? They're not solid, safe places for you to turn to. And then some of you will have grown up with a parent being hypercritical of the opposite sex. So that could be because they're divorced and it was a bitter divorce, or it could be they were left alone, or perhaps they grew up in a household themselves where, um, people were very verbally and physically abusive about the opposite sex. And that has an effect on you. And the effect it has, as I said at the beginning, is that as you're growing up, you might have liked someone very much. It could be a teacher you admired, it could be someone at school you admired, it could be a relative you admired. And then you hear people talk disparagingly about them and talking and saying horrible things about them. And it leaves you confused and it leaves you thinking, I don't really know what to believe now. And then you might find out that because when you're a child, you're more predisposed to hero worship as well, remember, and there's a lack of context. And so when you're hearing other adults who you regard as authority figures being disparaging about the person you like, it creates confusion. It makes you second guess yourself. And it also makes you then distrustful of your own decisions as well as the opposite sex. So you then begin to question your own judgment. If I could get it so wrong, I liked this person and everyone's saying they're a bad person in whatever shape or form. And you're like, but I really like them. It makes you question your own gut reactions and your own gut instinct. And so, in that instance, you really, really want to go to your higher self and you want to be shown every single time you have been made to second guess your own instinct about a person. When you do that, remember you are not re experiencing, you are just watching again, like a third person observing. So you're not going to experience the emotions again, but you are going to then begin to understand sometimes the perspectives that what you didn't see back then. The other way, when you have unstable, unsafe relationships, particularly with parents, your main role models, is that you can be too needy and have poor boundaries in your relationships. And so that's when sometimes you go overboard in trying to do whatever it is to keep your partner. And that comes across as being needy and demanding. And so that's when you can be called, people say to you, a bit much. You need to tone it down a lot, right? Which is incredibly hurtful because you're coming from what you believe is a place of love. But actually, when you're behaving in that way, you're coming from a place of fear that I'm not lovable, and fear that I'm not going to be loved in the way that I want and I crave. And the thing about shame is that shame exists within you, right? And the whole point of this is not to cast, say, Monica's teacher was bad, or to say that the person who was a poor role model, or the person who said to me, you're said to you that you're too much, are bad. It's actually to highlight within you how, when they said those things to you, it was a clear sign that you were giving away your power. And again, there's no blame attached here because more often than not, you were a child when this was happening. So the point of this is that you get rid of the shame that comes from being told you're not good enough, by being told or experiencing poor relationships, unstable relationships, being told you're not good enough or you're too much, being told that you're unlovable, all those kinds of things. What happens with those is every time you take that on board and you let that sit in your energy, you become low vibe, but you also end up disempowering yourself because you begin to believe those statements. And I'm not being critical here because, as part of my awakening journey, I've had to face some of these things very definitely. And when I've been clearing out my physicality recently, I've had to go through some of this again. And yeah, it was hard work. It wasn't great. It was not pleasant to re experience. But then on the other side of that is the freedom from those voices in your head. Because what happens is those people who have been horrible to you, they live rent free in your head. And you may not even notice them anymore because they've lived there for so long. So, the purpose of tonight is to highlight to you that their voices are still affecting you. They may not be in your lives anymore. They may have died. They may be in a different country. They may not even be in your social circle anymore. You may have nothing to do with them, but their critical voice is living rent free up here. And you have the means to change this by connecting with your higher self and saying to them, show me what I need to know about that situation. Show me what I need to know to change this and give me the truths that I need so that I can let this go. So for me, when I was working through shame, for example, think about that dungaree example I gave you. For me, it was actually the truth is I have a beautiful body. It doesn't matter what shape or size it is. The truth is I have a phenomenal, amazing, beautiful body. And the reason I can say that and mean it is because I am in awe of my body and what it has taken me through on my journey of 56 years and what it's had to cope with and how it's held me up and how it's housed my soul and my energy and how it's responded to my changing energy, right? So this is what I mean, that you can turn off that voice in your head. So I can talk about the Dungaree incident and not even have any emotional reaction to it. Whereas if I told my mum this, she would be mortified still, right? Because she doesn't do this kind of work. So this point of tonight is for you to do this inner work. You can let go of that shame. You can let go of those voices in your head, but it is your choice as always. But as soon as you start choosing this, start connecting with your higher self. For those of you who don't have the connection to the higher self, there's a link on my website which I share with you pretty much every live we're doing. So you can get that connection practice and then ask, okay, show me the very first time I felt this shame around my body and show me how it's impacting my income. How's it impacting my relationships? Is it affecting me in terms of communication? Is it affecting me in terms of my boundaries? Is it making me feel unsafe in my relationships? With Monica and her painting, we want to know how it's affecting you because we want to change the energy of your artwork. You want to bring this energy of this is beautiful, right? It is beautiful in its simplicity. It's going to enhance your house. It's going to make your house pop. People are going to go, oh, I love that flower pot. It's so cute. It's so pretty. That's the energy we want to bring to your stuff, Monica, so your currency flow continues to agree. Remember, everything, hi Mickey, everything is energetic. If you change the energy, the physical must change. That is universal law. So, for those of you who are struggling with currency flow, for those of you who are struggling with your relationships and meeting your special person, whether they're your eternal love or just a new partner, for those of you who have problems communicating with family members or children or parents, you want to go back to the beginning and you want to say to your higher selves, please show me. Show me the truth of what is going on here. Show me where the original hurt happened. Show me how it affected me. And then show me the new truth that I can align to. Right? because I want to feel safe in my relationships. I want to feel valued and I want to feel loved in my relationships. I want to feel like I can be myself in my relationships and I can shine in my relationships in a way that my partner will love and it will encourage them to shine as well, or my children to shine, or my parents to feel good about themselves. This is the power of your energetics. And when you get rid of any shame that is affecting your relationships or your currency flow, right, you will begin to notice the changes happening. And just to finish off this before I go on to the cards, I did quite a big piece of work on shame about probably about 6 weeks ago now, 4 to 6 weeks ago, and I dropped a dress size, right? As soon as I did the work, okay? That is how quickly the work can impact you. So you want to crack on and do that work, okay? And the last thing I just want to say about this is some of you have got new businesses and some of you are growing new things. And you might feel, I'm kind of, they're just saying to me, be careful how you're judging yourself, because in that judgment, you are generating feelings of shame within yourself. So do not compare yourself to people who have been doing, say, this kind of work for 25 years, because you're in different places. Do not compare yourself to someone who maybe has written 15 books and is a bestseller or top the Amazon charts, and you're not doing that. It doesn't matter. What matters is there are people out there who are waiting for your stuff to come into their awareness. As you clear your shame and you understand that your work is needed and valued, you will send that energy into your products and it will attract more interest and more buyers as a result. You'll receive inspiration on how to publicize it and how to market your own products. You will receive inspiration on what you need to do to generate excitement for your products. Okay. So just allow yourself not to just be in the moment. Okay. If that's where your shame is being generated, be in the moment. Ask your higher self to show you what you need to do this. You're welcome, Mickey. The not comparing yourself can be a really challenging thing. I have a friend, she's in this group actually, her name's Rocky. She is the most amazing fertility therapist and she's now doing functional gut health. And honestly, her business has been flying for as long as I've known her. And I often sort of think about her, you know, because of how successful she is. And sometimes I think, oh, maybe I should have been more successful. And then I just think, but we have such different businesses and what we're choosing to do and how our lives have have kind of flowed and the things that we've had to do have meant that we haven't had the same career journeys. And so I don't compare. Instead, I feel so much thankfulness for her business, and I feel thankfulness for my business has allowed me to be a carer to my mother in law and now helping with my mum more. It's allowed me to go to India and support my mum while I was out there. All these things that I've needed to do, my business has allowed me to do those things. So don't compare yourself to others, because we don't know what their journey is and we don't know what else is going on for them. Just keep your eyes on your prize and really, really focus on making sure your energy is as clean as possible, right? When we compare against others, we are judging ourselves harshly. We are being our harshest critic. So you really want to say to your higher self, what is the kindest, loveliest perspective I can bring about my business? What is the kindest, loveliest thing I can say about myself and my product? How can I infuse my love for my product in my product even more? Those are the sorts of things that you want to be talking to your higher self about. So I hope that helps. Ooh, quite hot, a lot of energy flowing. Okay, so any questions on that, come back to me. If any of you have any situations, any memories that have popped in as you're talking, please, as I've been talking rather, please do put them up in the comments. I'm going to start doing the cards in a minute, and I'm going to do the people who are here first, and then I'll go to the people who said that they wanted cards as well. Let me just bring up the original post so that I know who wanted us. Hi Emily, how are you? And yeah, I'll do your card in a minute, okay? So just want to make sure I've got everyone. So Monica, okay, Rochelle and Mickey's here. Okay, so we're going to start off with Monica. She was here first. The thing about shame is it's so insidious, and it's a bit like grief in some ways, in that it affects lots of areas of your life. So you kind of almost have to be alert to it. I wasn't going to say any more, but they've just nudged me. You need to almost be alert to your own thoughts and notice them, right? Notice those feelings. So they're asking me to give you another example. So an example they're asking me to give you is, I used to compare myself to people who did 9 to 5 jobs, worked 58 weeks of the year, 2 weeks off, annual holiday, 4 weeks off, whatever, 48 weeks of the year. And I used to sometimes think, oh, I wish I was a bit like them, because that's normal, right? I haven't been employed in an office now for nearly 20 years. I've been self-employed for most of that time. And the thing that Athalia kept showing me whenever that thought came back, thank you, Emily. The thing my Athalia kept showing me when that thought used to come back to me, it used to come to me quite a lot actually, especially when I'd hear about someone getting a promotion, or I'd see someone going on holiday, and a lot of the material things that I felt weren't available to me. What Athalia kept showing me was how much love I experienced in my work, and how much how much impact my love for my clients was having, and the changes I was creating. And then she began to show me also the impact of my energy within my immediate family, with my husband and my son and my cats actually as well. And then she began to show me the impact I have on other family members and friends, etc. And what happened was, I began to understand that if I had worked in an office and done that 9 to 5, I would still have had a loving impact, because that's really my soul essence. But it would have actually exhausted me, and I would have been really unwell from it. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. But it took me quite a long time to align to it and understand that my way of being had to be the way it is, in order that I could have the growth that I needed, but also that I could be this version of myself. And so this is why I really want you to notice your thoughts, and notice the judgment, notice the comparison, and notice how they can generate shame within you. Now I just think, well, okay, it's not for me. And I don't really think, oh, I wish I could be like other people. I don't think that at all anymore. I love what I do. I love these lives I do with you guys. My plan is to do in-person events towards the end of the year once the book's out. These things light me up and they make me really happy. So that's what I want to do for you guys as well, is help you understand that when you clear that shame, that judgment, that self-criticism, that self-loathing, that lack of belief in yourself, it will generate so much amazing stuff for you. You just have to do the work with your high selves. Sending you all lots of love, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye bye.